number ending in 967. Please identify yourself.
John McKinley.
Is that John, John?
Like to get started as close to 4 o'clock as we can. Is staff ready to get started?
Brian, do you have David on the line too? He was going to call in.
Please stand by. I'm trying to figure out one issue here. I may have just renamed somebody with the wrong name. So I have Mark McGuire on the call. Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you, thank you.
Okay. I have Kevin.
David on the line?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it seems we have staff ready to go, so let's call to order the regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee for Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. We have 2 items on the agenda. I will read the kind of preamble of the subcommittee responsibilities here. The purpose of this subcommittee is to provide direction, insight, concerns, and options to the applicant on how the project can best comply with the city design guidelines and/or city policies. The subcommittee is not an approving body. They may make recommendations to the Planning Commission and Zoning Administrator regarding a project's compliance with design guidelines. Each of the subcommittee members will provide input and suggest recommendations to the applicant based on written city and/or city policies. That's guidelines and city policies. The subcommittee will not design the project for the applicant, nor will the members always agree on the best course of action. The applicant can then assess the input and incorporate any changes accordingly, with the understanding that the subcommittee is simply a recommending body. Decisions to approve, deny, or modify a project are made by the Planning Commission, City Council, or the zoning administrator with input recommendations from the subcommittee and city staff. The chair of the subcommittee will lead the discussion. The planning staff will be available to provide technical assistance as necessary. Time is limited. Consequently, the design review subcommittee will focus on site and project design rather than on land use issues, which are the purview of the Planning Commission, City Council, or the zoning administrator. We have some minutes to approve from the May 13th, 2020 meeting. At that meeting, I believe, Chris Kaczynski was not in attendance at that meeting. So, Jen, do you have any revisions to the minutes or a motion?
I move to adopt the meeting minutes of last November meeting.
Chair Crandall seconds. All in favor? Jen?
Aye.
Chair Crandall is in favor. Kaczynski, you abstain. So we have a 2-0-1 approval of the minutes. The first item 2A, is conditional use permit 19405 and minor cultural heritage permit 19411. Wagalette CUP amendment and exterior improvements. David Carrillo is our planner, and I do apologize to the public that we're having to do this via video conferencing rather than in person, which we always prefer to do. And these are usually working meetings with the applicant face-to-face, but unfortunately that is unavailable to us at this time. David Carrillo is our planner, and I do apologize to the public that we're having to do this via video conferencing rather than in person.
Somebody has their volume up.
Yeah, this is IT. I apologize for interrupting, but everybody please mute your phones if you're not speaking and turn down the volume if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. This is David. Can I go ahead and start?
Yes, I think somebody still has a video feed going in their office, so hopefully that will die down. But yes, David, you're in charge now.
Okay, and then Brian, just to make sure, do you have the slide up on screen?
Yes, we do.
David, yes, the presentation is on screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start with on slide 2, Brian. Thank you. So the project is at 612 Avenida Victoria within the Pure Bowl specific plan in the coastal zone and is governed by the city's local coastal program. Under the local coastal program, the site is in the visitor serving commercial district, which basically means that it is in a district where it is encouraged to have uses that promote pedestrian activity and that accommodate visitors. Slide number 3. So the subject building is a 3-story commercial building. On the first level, as you see here on the screen, we have 3 vacant retail suites and Lafayette Creperie that occupies the 2 suites to the 3 suites to the right of the center main door. On the second and third level, we have hotel rooms, not visible or visible here as well on the screen. We have 4 on each level, which are accessible from Coronado Lane. So a little bit of background on Lafayette. Lafayette Creperie has been operating since 2004. They do have entitlements for indoor alcohol service and outdoor seating without alcohol service. Current outdoor seating consists of 4 tables and 8 seats, and that's 2 seats per table. There was also in 2004 an approval for a minor cultural heritage permit for the awnings you see here on the screen as well. So Lafayette proposes to expand the restaurant into the vacant retail suites to the left of the central main door, so that they're able to use the entire ground floor again off of Victoria. In expanding the restaurant, the applicant is proposing to replace existing French doors and transom window assemblies with dark brown aluminum roll-up doors, and proposes to expand outdoor seating by 4 tables and 8 seats. So basically doubling the amount of current outdoor seating. Next slide. This should be a rendering of the proposed elevation. So the aluminum roll-up doors are proposed to provide an open feel environment. The applicant is also looking into adding more ventilation and light into the spaces here, and also to increase ocean views for its patrons. To the left, where you see the circled opening, that'll be a new patio with a security roll-up door that matches the frame of all the other doors. However, instead of glass behind the frame, they'll be using a metal mesh. So it is a more decorative option than the usual all metal security gates that you see. So some policies and guidelines that were considered in reviewing this. I'll read them out loud here. So we are tasked to review projects and make sure that for any non-Spanish colonial revival building in an area like this, where we require high-quality architecture, one of our goals is to incrementally move buildings closer to the Spanish colonial revival style where practical. And also our design guidelines call for human-scaled building components to be incorporated. Slide number 5. So here's a side-by-side comparison. To the left, you've seen existing elevation, and to the right, the proposed rendering. So one of staff's concerns here with the proposed roll-up doors is the height increase, which really gives it an industrial-like appearance. Again, due to the height, that imbalances the existing human scale that's provided. So staff is recommending that they reduce the height. Let's go on to the next slide. So due to this concern to the imbalance that's created here by these taller openings, staff is recommending that the applicant explore ways to break up the height of the proposed openings and incorporate smaller glass panels closer to the existing design of the French doors and transom windows. As a guide, staff recommends that the knee openings or roll-up doors somehow match the height of the center main door, as seen here on the image. And again, this is consistent with design guidelines that encourage that new building elements match the height of neighboring one-story buildings to reduce the apparent height. So we're not really talking about buildings here, but we can apply that same concept of matching height, the height of certain elements to reduce that apparent height. And I know the applicant, Mark McGuire, does have some comments on that, so he'll have the opportunity to give those comments. Slide number 7. So here we see the outdoor seating that's proposed highlighted in yellow. So again, the applicant is proposing to expand outdoor seating by 4 tables and 8 seats. That'll be a total of 8 tables and 16 seats. And again, two seats per table, as you see here. Due to parking requirements, the restaurant is planning on providing all outdoor seating on the sidewalk in the morning hours, and then provide all outdoor seating in the new patio after morning hours. And this is, again, a way to stay in compliance with parking and not trigger any more parking spaces per code. One of the biggest concerns with outdoor seating was the leftover sidewalk for pedestrians, as well as ADA requirements. So the bicycle and pedestrian master plan encourages 6 feet of sidewalk for pedestrians in this type of zone, mixed-use zone. The plans show 5 feet, so they're a foot shorter than what the bicycle and pedestrian plan encourages. However, staff supports 5 feet contingent on approval by the engineering and building division. The engineering division did let the applicant know that a condition may be added which requires that all outdoor seating be south of the main entrance due to the handrail and path behind the ADA ramp in front of the building. So at the moment, the building division must review revised plans that address ADA-related comments prior to a hearing. So staff is recommending that the applicant address all building division comments prior to scheduling the project for a public hearing. Next slide, slide number 8. So here are two photographs that give you a better sense of what's going on out there now. So the photo to the left is a close-up of French doors and transom windows. The transom windows are maybe a little challenging to see, but they're right below the awnings there. And then the photo to the right is just a side view of the sidewalk width. And again, this gives you an idea of how much space is there. Currently, there's 5 feet that's left over, and again, staff is supportive of the outdoor seating expansion as long as the applicant can meet building requirements. Slide number 9. This should be the last one. So again, I have two recommendations. One, explore ways to break up the height of the proposed openings and incorporate smaller glass panels closer to the existing design of the French doors and transom windows. And 2, staff recommends that the applicant address all building division comments prior to scheduling the project for a public hearing. Overall, the project would improve the pedestrian ambiance encouraged in the visitor-serving commercial district and Pier Bowl with the roll-of-door concept and increased outdoor seating. So staff supports the project with design modifications and also welcomes feedback from the design review subcommittee. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, David. Before we have questions, let's have the applicant make their comments.
Hi, Commissioner Crandall. This is Mark McGuire on behalf of the applicant. And John, if you want to say anything after I just talk for a couple minutes, feel free to chime in. But thank you. We also appreciate the effort of David. We've enjoyed working with David on this application. We're excited about it. Again, right now, La Galette is a very small inside space. It's a shallow first floor. I think it only goes about 20 feet in depth. And we currently have the 4 outdoor tables with 8 seats. Those 8 seats, by the way, they line up, the tables line up in a continuation of the elevated patio that was approved for the Tropicana building next door. So it's really just a continuation of what's already an outdoor seating area for the Pierside restaurant. And in fact, it's not as, it doesn't encroach in the same way in that patio is elevated about 24 inches. So it's just a continuation of that. So we're asking, in the mornings to just do more of what we do already, which is to have those outdoor seats that look at the ocean and have their coffee and a crepe or an egg. I always get the omelet. But in the evenings, to be able to expand into the currently unoccupied retail spaces on the other side of the door, middle door, and to be able to roll those doors or windows up and have a real open feel that we think is going to be fantastic. And also, we were doing this before COVID-19, of course, but it seems to fit very much with the goal of having, as much open air circulation as you can in a restaurant setting. So we value it for that as well. And then with creating this indoor patio, and the thought is that it, in the evenings, could use that, and it is more sheltered, would have heaters if you need to, and then also you can serve alcohol on the private property. John has a permit to serve alcohol indoors, but we do not have permission to serve it out on the sidewalk. So that's one of the benefits of having the new patio space, and to create a sort of flex space. But in the mornings, there's a real premium and desire for people to enjoy the view from the sidewalk. So that's why we're asking for that kind of morning versus evening approach. Just the last thing I'll say is on the heights, respectfully, we feel like these are not so tall that they run afoul of a pedestrian scale. Again, the four roll-ups in the middle, so the two on both sides of the door, those would be up almost always when the restaurant is in operation. The one on the far right, nearest the Pier Side and Tropicana building, that is where the kitchen is, so that would typically not be rolled up. But we feel like the pedestrian scale is maintained. Certainly the activation of the sidewalk is maintained. People will see that there's the ability to go into a restaurant and sit down and have some food. So we also feel like the height is very important given the shallowness of the first floor, and also to put a lower height and then roll the doors up, you're going to lose whatever space you need from the ceiling for the door to roll up. So I think we have the benefit of 11-foot ceilings, and you can roll that up and still have a nice high ceiling. If you have a low door and you're rolling it up, then you're looking at really compromising the ceiling height and really frustrating the goal of what we're trying to achieve here. Having said that, we look forward to input from the Design Review Subcommittee. I've always benefited, my projects have always benefited from this process, and you guys have great ideas and concepts for what how you can address the project and make it the best possible project, which is obviously our goal. So I'll shut up now. Thanks.
Did the owner want to make a comment as well?
Just a moment. I concur, of course, with what Mark says. I think it's really imperative to understand the overall size of this project. It's tiny, and the only saving grace to this small space is the existing height of the ceilings. And by having a desire to want to lower the overall roll-up down to, say, the height of a standard door would severely impact the interior feel of the space. The only other thing I would add is that on our storyboard we had pictures of the type of roll-up doors that we were suggesting, and I think that might be a little bit misleading. It shows a bigger glass on those doors, the actual rendering, as well as the drawing supplied, I think shows a more realistic size of glass that we're intending on using, which I think is much more similar to our existing glass that we currently have in the French type of doors. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Before we have questions by members here, I just want to say we're always excited when a local business that's been established for some time is doing so well they want to expand, and we will certainly do everything we can to make that happen. Do either Chris or Jen, do you either have questions for the applicant? Jen will.
This is Zhang. Yes, I do have some questions. For the applicant or Mark, have you explored using folding door door solution design?
I didn't quite catch that, Commissioner Wu, if you don't mind repeating.
Have you explored using folding door to open up the front?
I'm just not catching what kind of door.
He's mentioned folding doors like La Cantina or otherwise that they either pivot in the middle of each door or they bifold.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. Well, I guess we thought that the beauty of these is that it really creates an opening and where you don't have to have the accordion or the folding doors put to the side, and also we are trying for that height to maximize the amount of light and air that comes in. So that was why this approach was viewed as particularly attractive.
Okay.
I guess you could do the same kind of door at the same height, but then you'd have to find a home for the doors when they're open on the sides, right?
Correct.
Can I offer a comment, Mark?
Certainly, both applicant and his representative can respond.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think a folding door or something along that line would severely impact the space to be able to seat people. I mean, on this one side, I don't know, do we even hit 600 square feet? So it's tiny. And secondly, along that front, where a folding door would have to encroach into the interior space, we have a counter, a fixed counter for people to be able to sit there and look out at the ocean. So that would severely impact that design.
Okay. You call it a roll-up door, but my understanding is really it's like the section of garage door. It goes up and stay on the ceiling horizontally, parallel with the ceiling. Is that right? Or does it roll into really roll up? Your photo shows that it goes up. It doesn't roll into a row. Right. So this will be a row. That's not the case. That's not the product you suggested. It's almost, my understanding is similar to a section of garage door. Is that true?
This is Mark. I think that's right. And again, I apologize. My phone reception is distorting a little bit, but I think you were saying it functions like a roll-up sectional, but it doesn't roll into anything. It does. It then just basically goes up above it, right along the ceiling height. And then Yeah, I think from the renderings, for example, you wouldn't see the edge because they'd be behind the awnings, but that's where the bottom of the roll up would be, you know.
Yes, and and I agree that it is closer or similar to a garage door, a sectional garage door. The companies that we would be using describe these as roll-up doors, so that's how we picked up that nomenclature.
Okay. Now, since you're proposing a 10 feet tall door, and your ceiling is about 11, maybe 11.6, that's the minimum clearance for the door to operate. By the time it rolls up, it will extend into the ceiling, into the interior by about 10 feet, right? It's a little different from the photo I see. On the photo, you have a large clearance or overhead room to accommodate those doors once lifted. So the door, once lifted, doesn't impact the interior equipment such as lighting, fire sprinkler, smoke detector, or anything else. So, air conditioner. Have you had your MEP or HVAC or fire sprinkler consultant to look at the impact to those equipment once the door is lifted up?
So this is Mark again. I don't know how that works necessarily, Commissioner Wu. It just hasn't been something that I've focused on. John, do you have any thoughts? I mean, obviously we have to make it work technically. You're right, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, we have to design around that. There is a space between the openings of approximately 24 inches that would allow for lighting and HVAC and so on and so forth to come down. But yes, it has to be designed around it. I think to your past comment in regards to the roll-up doors going up and to the lid, if the other tact was taken and we kept them low, then that would eliminate probably 30% of the overall cubic foot available to do that, and we'd have to bring all that HVAC and all that lighting even lower down into the space. So we understand that it's a design issue, but we need to make sure that before we take the next step on that we know what we can design to.
Okay, well, that's all my question. I wish I have a product brochure of the door, because the rendering just showed me a black blob. I cannot see any detail here. So, but we'll leave that. Thank you.
Commissioner Kozinski.
All right, this is for Mark or the applicant. Have you looked at keeping something like a transom window fixed above these doors and possibly still have a roll-up or some other type of garage type feature go up into the 11-foot ceiling?
Oh, this is John McKinley. I think that if you kept a fixed transom, then you're basically cutting off the flow of the air, the open feeling that we're trying to achieve in such a small square footage of space.
Well,
we're trying to design it to where it feels as open air as possible, as welcoming as possible.
But have you looked at any other types of doors that possibly come down or roll up while still having that, that fixed window portion above the part that you want completely open?
No.
Okay. Mark, do you know of anything like that out there?
Yes, so this is Mark again. Just briefly, sorry, I didn't know if you said Mark or Bart, but I was just going to make one comment. Again, we didn't think of other things because we felt like the scale was okay. I had sent some examples from State Street in Santa Barbara with windows that are taller than the door, certainly, and with openings similar in dimensions to these. On Spanish Colonial Revival buildings. Obviously, this is not a Spanish Colonial Revival building, but so I guess one of the things that we'll value your input on is this notion of whether we somehow have to line up with the height of the door, the one main entrance door, because that's not something I've seen, consistently required for, from a design standpoint for buildings, even, where, for example, where Urba is, and all sorts of examples where the adjacent windows are higher than the door. And just one other thing is that we certainly can make that door one panel taller. You quite often see a slightly taller door than what we've shown. We've shown a standard door, but it could be increased one panel to make the discrepancy between the two a little bit different. But again, those are just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll keep my questions for discussion period. So if there are no other questions, we will close the presentation. And David, do we have any comment from public? Any letters or emails?
This is David. No, we do not, Commissioner Condo.
Okay, we will close the public comment and open the discussion. I will say I'm excited about the project. I see a problem of recommending the project going up to Planning Commission if I can't justify that the project has gone and made the step to go more Spanish revival. The types of doors being used actually take it away from Spanish colonial revival, and we've got to make that one finding that the design has improved the Spanish colonial revival compliance. Also, over the years, it's been in the pedestrian zones. It's been imposed on a lot of projects to have kind of a touchy-feely material that is either wood-oriented or something that resembles wood and looks like a Spanish colonial product. So I'm concerned about that because I can see that a center pivoting bifold doors, you've only got 3 panels per opening, so it would stick in 18 inches and out maybe 18 inches. If there is room to get around those doors, that would be a way of keeping from hurting the square footage available. The other way is there are ones that slide on tracks and they all slide across the openings and go to one end of the building. It doesn't have to be independent in each opening. But I think that needs to be researched and figure out how to make it. We won't design it for you, but everything else, I'm thrilled with having a project down there that's going to be pedestrian-oriented, open air. That's great. But I do think that one issue could be a stumbling point. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I like this area and this specific building, and the previous design was very quaint. This garage door look makes it look very industrial for me. So I would agree with Bart and make it more Spanish colonial revival looking. Right now, it kind of looks a little French and a little industrial.
Okay, Commissioner Wu?
Yes, I share the concern of you too. I feel that, first of all, the transom, I'd like to see the transom to stay. I think much of the transom, if you look at it from the elevation viewpoint, is already blocked by the awning. I'm thrilled of the idea to open up the whole storefront. That's great. But as the other two members said, the roll-up door or the sectional roll-up door has industrial feeding, and it doesn't have the wood material or material very similar to wood to be compatible with the Spanish colonial style. For that reason, I think the applicant needs to research different products. For example, Mark mentioned, and also the folding door, like Cantino or Lala or Nana doors. They used to be Nana only. Now they have a few different brands. So the option is there. And as far as the encroachment, and our front door is open toward outside, so you can see that there will be a 3 feet encroachment opening into the sidewalk. It's not always open, but when it's open, it goes into the public right of way. So when you need to open this door, if they are folding doors, since it's 8 feet wide, you probably have, let's say you have 18-inch or 2 feet each sash, so you're going to encroach into the sidewalk by anywhere from 18 to 24 inches. I would take that. I would support that if you use a folding door and you want to fold outward into the sidewalk. I would support this the encroachment request if you do that. As of now, I don't think I can recommend it to the planning commission. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments, Chris? Okay, yeah, I will say the overall concept is great. I'm in support of that. The using of the patio I'm fine with. I just think we need some little more research and creativity in complying with these architectural guidelines that are in the pedestrian zone and the architectural overlay. But I think in concept we're very strong. I think those doors are something I'm not really comfortable putting the burden on David to review and approve to move it along. So I'd love to see it again, but if you choose otherwise, that's the only real architectural item that there is on this project. And so, I mean, it's kind of the one thing we've got to do correctly. David, do you have any comment on that?
I'd be okay bringing it back to DRC, Commissioner Crandall.
Very good. Jen, you look like you're reaching for the mute button.
Yes. When it comes back, make sure you bring us the product brochure, or if it's customized design, give us the design detail of that, as well as the color and the material, so we can have a better understanding.
Okay. Are we all, let's nod our heads, are we all in concurrence on that? Very good. And John, I want to thank you for improving your project. and you've got a good man working for you as an assistant with Mark McGuire, so I'm sure you two can pull it together.
Commissioner Crandall, thank you. Can I ask a question about the height? Because I'll be candid with you. If the height proposal is to keep the height at the current height of the French doors, then I'm not sure, having talked to John in the past, that he would make the investment to create these sliding opening doors if they're only as tall as the current French doors. So is there an opportunity, if there's an alternative way to do these doors, to have the doors taller than the current doors, because that really doesn't open it up in the way that we were trying to achieve. And again, certainly I wish now that I had sent some of the examples from State Street and Santa Barbara where there are similar sorts of window / roll-up doors that have the same, a very similar look and feel. But just on the question of height itself, can these openings be opened up taller than what the current transom level is right now? Because that's fairly low, and for the depth of the space doesn't really create the opportunity we were shooting for.
Well, I'll give you one little item that's in the design guidelines is we encourage the entry of projects to be distinct and very identifiable. So you could do some things with that entry door to follow that particular guideline, and that might then be a way to address the height of the other doors, because they wouldn't necessarily have to line up if you have something unique for your entry door element. So if you have David dig that out for you in the guidelines, it's pretty clear that they try to define the entry, so when all these doors are closed, people know which door to go in. And that might give you some ideas on how to accomplish the height.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then also, you guys are all saying you want wood cladding on the whatever sort of door, because with the solid color, I know that a lot of the Spanish colonial homes in my neighborhood in the Southwest, you have this you have a metal cladding, but it looks and feels, it looks like wood from a distance. It's not really distinguishable when it's the brown color. So, but is there a feeling that wood is important in this instance, even though it will be painted?
There was a period of time within the last 10 years, let's call it 7 years, that anything that was within touch of the public in the pedestrian zone and architectural overlay would be wood that you could feel. They've come up with some good fiberglass products now that look like wood and pretty much feel like wood. So I think this one is going to be pretty exposed to weather down there at the beach. So we want to make sure that it's also not a maintenance hog and deteriorate. So I think we have a little bit of latitude to the actual material.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then, John, did you have anything you wanted to say at the end? And again, I thank all of the commissioners for your time today.
You're welcome.
No,
I could chime in that as far as the door or height, I'm open to the taller opening if you use a sliding door. As long as when you design the door sash, it's going to be divided anyway. And so there is a horizontal division between the top portion and the lower portion. The lower portion looks like a normal door, and the top portion looks like a transom, but they're one sash. But as long as you have that look, you'll be fine, I think.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. McKinley, we're looking forward to working with you and getting this resolved so you can enjoy the expansion and it works the way you want it to.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will move on to our next item, which is an application for a general plan amendment 19468, specific plan amendment 19473, site plan permit amendment 19474, lodge at Sanctuary Rooftop Venue, 401 West Avenida Vista Hermosa. Katie Crockett will be our planner on this one, and I am glad that the representative for this project was able to hear the prologue on what the duties of the Design Review Subcommittee are. And Katie, I know you wanted to kind of set the scene for reviewing this project.
Thanks, Commissioner Crandall. Katie Crockett, Associate Planner. This proposed project is a modification of the approved site plan permit for the outlets at San Clemente, specifically the hotel building near the north end of the property. Oh, you know what, Brian? Do we have a presentation on this that you can pull up on the screen? Am I just not seeing it? There it comes. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide, it has the project location. You can see that highlighted. It's also on page 2 of your agenda packet. Next slide. The specific modification requested involves a height increase up to 62 feet maximum from 51 feet. That 51 feet includes the 45-foot height to top of roof, plus a 6-foot encroachment above the maximum height for elevator overrides. The 62 feet maximum in this project, as proposed, would include the space needed for the elevator overrides and would have a condition specifying this should it be recommended for approval. And this represents an overall increase of 11 feet. The purpose of the height increase is to allow for a rooftop dining and bar venue. This modification also involves an amendment to the specific plan and general plan to allow the increase in height. As previously mentioned, the maximum height for the zone is 45 feet to top of roof with the 6-foot encroachment permitted for elevator overrides. Ooh, my lights just went off. I'm sitting too still. It should be noted that the 62 feet is consistent with the height permitted for the theater building at the outlets. Both the theater and the hotel are envisioned in prior city approvals as the 2 landmarks at the outlets property, anchoring the south and north ends. Next slide. While the crux of this broader project request is whether or not the requested height increase is appropriate, whether any environmental impacts are associated with this project, and ultimately whether the City Council votes to increase the allowable height for this zone through the general plan amendment and specific plan amendment requested by the applicant, the goal of this DRSC review today is to help the applicant to understand whether this design that we're reviewing today would meet the city's design guidelines and general plan goals and policies. At this point, I do think it's also important to note that staff is not making any recommendations with regard to the height increase itself at this time, and nor should the DRSC. At this point, the city is still in the initial stages of review. We will be collecting various technical studies such as noise impact analyses, traffic impact analyses, and more detailed visual simulations. These will be reviewed and analyzed in light of both the city's requirements as well as the California Environmental Quality Act. Staff expects that this will be reviewed again by the DRSC after we have more information. The project as a whole will ultimately be reviewed by the Planning Commission at a noticed public hearing. The Planning Commission then makes a recommendation to the City Council on the whole project. So that would be whether the specific plan amendment and general plan amendment should be granted for the height increase, and whether these specific architectural changes should be approved. The City Council will make the final determination on this project at a noticed public hearing. So with that in mind, I'd like to dive into the proposed design a bit and staff's general recommendations on the design. Next slide, please. As you can see on the roof plan, which is on page 3 of the agenda packet, the proposed addition involves 4,600 square feet of additional enclosed area. These areas include a kitchen, storage, restrooms, and elevator bank. The addition also includes 5,800 square feet of unenclosed roof deck with dining and bar seating. Next slide. You'll see on this slide the north and south elevations. In these exhibits, which you'll find in the plans or page 36 of the agenda packet, the applicant has visually shown the modifications in color, while what is approved is shown in black and white. The architecture continues many elements in the approved Spanish Colonial Revival architecture of the lodge, utilizing clay tile roofs, smooth white stucco, and a domed accent tower. You see to the left there in the north elevation. While the 5th floor enclosure is stepped back and toward the center of the building, staff does note that it utilizes a large unbroken plane of stucco, which is incongruent with our articulation on the lower floors, as well as with design guidelines and general plan policies as outlined in attachments 1 and 2 of my report. The applicant has raised the height of the center 4th floor tile roof element, which you see just a little bit in red there under the 5th floor element, to try to mitigate the blank stucco appearance of the 5th floor, but staff recommends further articulation be included. So moving to the appearance of the bar area cover, that's going to be on the right-hand side of your north elevation or the left-hand side of your south elevation. This element appears disconnected with the rest of the building architecture, which is gradually kind of more stepped up. Staff recommends modification of this element to better blend with the overall architectural form of the hotel. Additionally, the elevator tower element, which is the tallest portion you see right in the center, it's designed as an ornamental tower or cupola. While some treatments of this tower are consistent with other tower elements at the lodge, the roof form of the elevator tower stands out in a way that's not really consistent with the rest of the architecture. Next slide. You can particularly see this when it's viewed from the east and west elevations, which you see here. That tallest element, from those north and south elevations looks like just a tower element, but viewed from these side elevations, the massing of it's just a bit off, in staff's opinion, for an ornamental tower element. The elevator element seems, like I said, it seems inconsistent with the other Spanish Colonial Revival roof forms and is much larger than a typical accent tower, such as the domes elsewhere at the lodge, which you can also see on that elevation. Next slide. So to summarize staff's recommendations on the architecture of this addition, the first is provide additional visual relief at the 5th story walls, consistent with the detail and visual relief provided on lower stories of the lodge. This could include stucco recesses, windows, arcades, or other details. These things might benefit from the 4th floor tile roof element being lowered again to its original approved height. The second would be to modify the elevator tower element such that it is more carefully integrated into the overall hotel design with similar scaled details and articulation. If it is to remain an accent tower, the size, particularly as presenting from the east and west, should be reduced to be more consistent with the massing and scale of the other accent towers at the lodge. The third recommendation is to integrate the bar roof structure into the design of the building and other roof elements. If the bar is to remain freestanding, as opposed to attached or stepped with a higher roof element, staff recommends a lighter, less top-heavy design, such as a wood trellis style roof. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you have of staff. I want to note that Kevin Terra and Tom Aubrey with the architecture firm ACRM are on the call to speak for the project and to answer any questions of the applicant that the commissioners may have. Additionally, staff has received a significant amount of public comment on this project, which has been forwarded to your emails over the last few days. I think the last one we got was about 15 minutes before the meeting started. Once we reach the public input portion of the meeting, I'll read these comments into the record. Many of them are specifically concerned with the height of the hotel which is somewhat outside the scope of this meeting today. Nevertheless, they have been really instructive for staff and will be for our environmental consultant as we move forward in further evaluation of this project. Bart, you're muted. Commissioner Crandall, you're muted.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, very nice presentation. Thank you very much. I would like to hear from the applicant on their presentation prior to us asking questions of staff and the applicant. So if one of the applicants would like to speak, please go ahead.
This is Tom Aubrey at Ace REM. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, commissioners, for letting me speak, and I appreciate Katie's presentation, and all the comments she made are relevant, and I think something we can look at in terms of the challenges we have with, in particular, the tower element where the elevator override occurs. And we can do more work and more design work on the detailing and the articulation of that tower. The challenge will be we have 3 elevators in that element, and they all need to have an override, so they all need to go up to a certain height. So we'll be looking closely at how we can make that appear to be more like the remainder of the towers on the building that basically represent, at least one of them represents a service elevator that's on the south side of the building, and the one on the east side of the building is actually more of a decorative tower over the ballroom. So with that, Kevin, are you available for any questions that would, or do you want to say anything before we get started on any questions they may have for us?
I am here. I don't really think I have much more to add other than obviously the desire here is to, as Katie was talking about, continue the architecture up from below. That's kind of our response at stepping back and not having it be prominent with the existing face that we have. And again, same thing with the bar. I think definitely we're here to talk about suggestions and get it moving forward.
Thank you very much. We'll open for questions within from the committee. I've got one question. On your center core of elevators, only one needs to go to the roof, correct?
Well, they're all 3 going to the roof to
I know they are, but they need to.
Yeah, but I was going to answer that. Because of the demand of all the group of people that are up on the roof leave at about the same time, you might need all 3 elevators. But I mean, that's a good point. We could have an elevator consultant take a look at the number of people we have anticipated, which is about 180 total on the rooftop element. Could we, reduce the number that actually go to the 5th floor? Because that would solve a lot of problems visually. It's just we want to make sure that exiting the event area will not be a long wait to get to the elevators.
Correct. I wouldn't anticipate that this is a use where everybody's going to leave at once. You've got your conference rooms and meeting rooms down on the 1st level. So this would be more, I would think, a random use and kind of a staggered exiting. So I think that's something that needs to be considered. Chris, I see you're unmuted. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, could you put stairs next to the center elevator area?
Right now we don't have the room for stairs there, but we do have 2 sets of stairs on the west end of the roof deck that could also serve as another means of exiting. But they are going down 5 flights. But we do have those stairs mostly for emergency exiting, but I think in combination with reviewing this with an elevator consultant and knowing that a lot of people assume use the stairs as use an elevator, certainly not the ADA issues that we would be struggling with, but we could look at least a way to get that down to, if possible, down to one elevator. That would solve the problems that I think is probably the biggest concern that's been expressed. And I concur with Kevin. The trellis solution or something similar to that would be a lot more compatible with and more integral with the rest of the design.
Commissioner Kuczynski, are you done?
I have one more question. Have you looked at integrating that roof structure in bar area more in line with or more with the other mass of the building?
We haven't looked at that because we wanted to keep the bar as open as possible and have the 180-degree views that the rest of the guests would have. In order to integrate it more into the building, we'd have to probably shift that back to the east and move it away from the edge of the building where the views are best.
Can you talk a little bit about, I know this might be somewhat outside the scope of this meeting with the height, but why wasn't this design presented back when you had the original approved? Or at least higher height?
Well, at that time, there was not a consideration for this type of venue, but since then it's become more apparent that this would be a great addition to the hotel and bring the community in as well as hotel guests to be able to enjoy these, this great view they would have. So when the design was originally considered, this was not part of the plan, but it came as a addendum after looking at other projects of similar size. Other hotels are looking more and more at roof venues and seeing them as an asset to the project. So that if we had considered that, at the very beginning, it would have been probably differently incorporated into the design, but this is more of a addition.
So there was no discussion on exceeding the 45-foot limit?
Originally?
Yes.
No, not at that time. In order to make this work, we had no choice but to exceed the height limits. Because in order to provide service up on the rooftop, that automatically created a small building or small space up there, even though it's only like 4,600 square feet, it automatically went above the height limit. So that was an absolute need for the rooftop venue to have a service element, small kitchen, restrooms, that would be an absolute requirement, and then the storage. So because of that, that took us over the height limit by, I believe, from 45 to 55 on the roof ridges, and then from 51 to 62 on the towers, 62 feet.
Now, based on Katie's last question, based on Katie's recommendation of changing or doing something with the small tower, are you proposing anything?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. You were breaking up on me, so maybe try to turn my sound down.
Yeah, based on.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, based on Katie's recommendation that you do something different with this small tower or change it in some way so that it fits more in line with the rest of this design. Is there anything that you're proposing?
Anything that can what?
Anything that you're proposing. Am I breaking up?
Kevin, if you understand this better, I cannot hear the conversation.
Yes, I think we would go back if we can find a way to do it with one elevator. We would probably go back and look at repeating, or not necessarily repeating word for word, but sort of getting in the same vein with a tower that we already have over the other elevators. I think that's, and we could work with Katie on that too up front. But I'm guessing from our conversation, Katie, that's sort of the direction. If we're going to have a tower element, we should be going. Something.
That would be consistent with my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Wu?
Yes, my question is also on the elevator at this moment. What type of elevator are you proposing? Does it have a machine room or without? Is it hydraulic? If this is the lowest height you can have.
Kevin, I'll let you answer that question. Is it?
I'm sorry. All of our elevators will be traction elevators in this hotel, because when we're in a hotel, we need to move people fairly quick. We can't use hydraulics. They just, especially when people are in nice hotels. So that's what we have currently that we're using and we plan on. What we had looked at with the addition of a third elevator is, this elevator here we can have stops for every floor, but we could turn it off so it becomes an express elevator, say after sunset when a lot of people might be leaving the rooftop. We could make it an express so we keep people moving from the top floor down. So there's ways to mitigate and think about how it will operate.
Does the elevator have a machine room over the hoistway?
Yes. No, all the machine rooms are in the basement.
So it appears that you have a mezzanine over the hoistway. Do you require that much height? Can it be lower?
No, we've actually kept it to what is required by code for the elevator overrides, because you have to have space above so nobody gets trapped or crushed if they're working on top of the car and it goes up.
Okay. Then for the elevator underneath the dome, the top, the original tower landmark, that's a service elevator. Do you plan to use that service elevator to bring food, like?
We made that elevator go up to the roof also because we will have to bring food up. Our main kitchen is down below, so we'll have a small kitchen to service up on the roof deck, but we need to always keep the back of house staff and things like that moving behind the scenes and moving through the service elevator. We don't want to have them in the passenger elevator.
So the food will be prepared in the kitchen basement as well as the kitchen on the 5th floor.
Sorry, I missed that last part. I missed that last part. I'm sorry.
The food will be prepared in both kitchens, on the 5th floor and in the basement.
Well, usually in the basement, the main kitchen is where they do all the prep work for all kitchens. Usually in hotels, we'll do one main kitchen, have staff there to do prep, and then when the roof deck would be open, there'd be a smaller kitchen for cooking right where the people are, but it wouldn't be a prep kitchen.
For the back of the house portion on the 5th floor, have you minimized the size?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Do you need that much on the 5th floor?
Oh yeah. We went with basically what we have for the kitchen we have for the dining room on the 1st floor, and again, even for that kitchen, the prep is done in the main kitchen. So we've looked at this through comparing to that and also through our kitchen consultant.
Okay. Now, I have a question for Katie. Katie, the applicant is seeking to raise the height limit to 55 to 62. Originally it was 45 plus exception for elevator tower. If the applicant is granted a new height limit, doesn't it let them to enclose the portion of the roof between the outdoor dining area and the proposed back of the house, where the walkway goes through, to convert to include that portion into an indoor seating area?
That's a really good question. So as I noted, if this were recommended for approval, we would definitely include a condition that there's no additional elevator override or height allowances over the 62 feet. And likewise, to your point, Commissioner Wu, we would definitely want to condition my lights just went out again, sorry. We would definitely want to condition, I mean, obviously with this, with the site plan permit amendment, it's specifically these requirements. So once we increase the height allowance for this building, in the general plan and the specific plan, if that indeed is approved, they would be able to apply for additional site plan permit amendments going forward to enclose more area. Those additional applications would have environmental documents that go with them, and additional design review, planning commission, and city council review. So the short answer to your question is yes, but the long answer is they're not. They would still require an entitlement to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is Bart Crandall. I'd like to ask the applicant, when you were assigned this project, they said, okay, we want a rooftop venue. And I think everyone was aware that the easiest way to do it is to plop it on the roof, obviously. Was it ever considered to take this kitchen, put it on the 4th floor, and gain your units back by putting them over the 2-story element that is the current banquet areas? In other words, you could lose, it looks like, maybe, what did I write down here? Probably 13 units you could get over the top of the downstairs conference rooms, banquet rooms, which means on the 4th floor you could eliminate 13 units and put the kitchen and all, and wouldn't need to go with the kitchen. You'd still have to get the people up to the deck area, but that kitchen element and all could stay down below on the 4th. Was that ever considered?
One reason that it's a good, interesting thought because can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. It's an interesting thought. The only issue we might have with if we had considered that more deeply is the fact we'd have to put those 13 guest rooms spanning the ballroom. Anything can be done, but it would be a challenge to put the structure up to support those guest rooms and still span the ballroom, which I believe is about 60 feet clear right now.
I'm sure it would be a pretty thick floor system, but it could certainly be done, and then it would avoid this whole. We've done these general plan amendment things before with an applicant that was applying for it, and it got to be a really difficult process. So if there is an option that allows not doing a concurrent general plan amendment with an application, it would certainly speed up the process probably. Although it's a lot of work modifying the working drawings, which are probably substantially done for the hotel.
Basically the working drawings are done, and we can pull a permit, I think, Kevin, with just a couple of items remaining with the current design.
Okay, well,
our building permit it's all through the building department. We're just waiting for fire and the health department, which are in their last rounds right now. So that's kind of where we are.
And I'm thinking that really there needs to be a lot of public outreach on this one, as we will see in a moment. So I'd like to close the questions for you, but still I'd like to have you available during our discussion of the project so we can ask additional questions. But I want to get Katie going on reading the public comments and getting them in the book so the public is aware that we have read them, know what their concerns are, and are taking them into consideration. Katie?
Okay, all right, thank you. This first one is from Lynn, and just blanket statement. I'm really sorry if I say names wrong. This first one is from Lynn and Brian Chichi. We live in Highland Light Estates. We are concerned that the change in the original approved plans to add another 17 feet will affect our views. We are asking that story poles be put up so that we can assess the further impediment of our views. Please respect our rights as homeowners to protect our view. Thank you for your time. This one is from George and Heather Cather. Hello, we live in the Marblehead community and have heard that San Clemente is considering allowing an additional story as a part of the lodge development. We urge the consideration of the impact to the views and property values of the surrounding homes, and before any changes to the original plan are approved, that story poles for current approved plans and proposed changes be put in before decisions are made that can have a material impact on views and property values. We welcome development in our city and just ask that we preserve the integrity of our Spanish Village by the Sea and give our residents the ability to be a part of this decision, as it could have a material impact. This is from the Eadsons. Hello, our names are Mark and Candy Eadson. We live on Avenida Oliva, right off of Avenida Vista Hermosa. When you originally purchased the property, I believe they're addressing the applicant here, and wanted to build an outdoor mall, we were all for it, even though several of our neighbors were against the project. You had basically told all of us that your mall would not take away from our views. However, that was very untrue. Not to mention the removal of our views from the massive amount of homes that were built across the street from the mall. You are now asking to take even more of our beautiful views, not only adding a 130-room massive hotel, but to add a restaurant and rooftop area. We have worked hard for what we have, and now, at least for us, this seems greedy. I feel all of us as neighbors to your mall will be affected and need to stand together before you walk away with all of our views. I don't care how much you pay in city taxes. We are taxpayers as well. Every neighbor will need to band together with the rest of our neighborhood. We are requesting that you raise air poles on all corners of the building pad, not only for the original planned elevation, but the requested new elevation as well. All of the neighbors that are having to swallow that, you will not be robbing us of additional ocean views. We are asking for you to prove it. This is from Beverly Weeson. Thank you. Let's see. As requested in Katie's email below, I'd like to give you my comments on this proposed increase in the lodge project height and rooftop venue. Also, since the agenda is clear that the City Council is the final decision point, I've copied all of them here too. First, everyone who purchased their homes in Highland Light knew there could be a hotel built someday, just like we knew the outlets might be built. I purchased my home and believed the city would stand by what they agreed to in my disclosures, as did all of my neighbors. The hotel project was approved at 42 feet high. While I still feel it was quite a large project for this area, I knew it might happen, no problem. This new proposed venue will affect a number of people in our community. We all invested believing our quality of life here would be as promised, with a hotel of no more than 42 feet high. A rooftop bar and restaurant was never on the table. With the additional 17 feet requested, not only will many views be affected fairly dramatically by at least 3 streets of residents, I'm anticipating the noise level from the rooftop bar and restaurant will destroy the quiet nature of our community. The proposal includes 5,800 square feet open-air rooftop deck with 171 dining seats and 33 bar seats. The noise generated by 200 people at capacity at an open-air rooftop bar will get quite loud. You may not be aware, but sound travels up the hill through the still night air quite easily. The freeway noise, since the outlets were built, has increased by at least 25%. I was amazed that a sound wall on the residential side of the freeway wasn't required when the outlets were built. The freeway sound bounces off of the concrete outlets and right into our homes every day and night now. I've had to put noise-absorbing window coverings over my double-paned windows to deaden the noise. I can only imagine what would be necessary to drown out the crowd on the 5th story should your subcommittee recommend approval to the City Council. I was very disappointed when the city had to succumb to Steve Craig's lawsuit and allow lighting facing our homes in Highland Light. The signs and lights mar my view daily. If this project is approved and the council once again succumbs to Steve Craig and his late-in-the-game demands, I know another portion of my view, as well as the overall enjoyment of my home, will be negatively impacted, as well as my property value. We are also currently dealing with his theater project at all hours of the day and night, as he doesn't think normal work hours apply to him or his construction. We learned that during the outlet construction and their penchant to work on Sundays to get the project completed, even though San Clemente Code specifically prohibits Sunday construction. I thank you to the residents here in San Clemente to give this request by Craig Realty very thorough consideration. At a minimum, story poles should be put up to show exactly where this project will be. I'd also request that the rooftop bar be required to have limited nighttime hours so that the residents are not continually disturbed by the sounds and lights. coming from the establishment should you choose to let us down and approve this project. I truly welcome each and every one of you to come to my home and hear how the sound travels from the freeway in the calm night air. Maybe you'll come on a night when they're doing late night deliveries at the outlet and you can hear how the backup beeping truck alerts travel into our homes from the same distance as this proposed venue. I'll look forward to hearing when you'd like to stop by. I know many of my neighbors would welcome the same sort of fact-finding trip by anyone on this email trail. All we want is quiet enjoyment of our homes and our views that we've worked so hard to achieve under the conditions we agreed to when we signed our purchase contracts. Please make Steve Craig stick with his original plan so that we can all keep enjoying our homes in San Clemente. Thank you for the opportunity to address all of you. This one is from Denise Zivelich. When it comes to outlets, we applaud the city and the Planning Commission's effort to keep Craig Realty under control regarding our Spanish Village by the Sea architecture, reducing the number of houses they wish to build, and more recently, the Commission's successful limitation to Mr. Craig's attempt to install a blight of lights and signs on the freeway side of the mall. At the neighborhood introduction to the light issue, Mr. Craig personally assured me they were not asking for any colors other than what was on their storyboard samples. When I attended the Planning Commission meeting on the same issue, Mr. Craig's representative attempted to request a plethora of wild colors representing vendors' actual logos. Thank you for denying that proposal. This leads me to believe that Mr. Craig does not always shoot straight, and unfortunately, I must ask for more of the city's assistance in controlling Mr. Craig regarding the lodge. We were blindsided by how little time we had once again to comment on this issue, and now due to COVID, we are unable to physically participate in these meetings hearings, which we feel will drown out our voices and allow Mr. Craig to push through yet another drastic post-prior approval change. We live in Highland Light and Marblehead, which looks directly over the outlet mall. In addition, our Catalina Island view is in the direction of the lodge. Already at 4 floors, we expect some of our Catalina view will already be impeded by the lodge. Adding an extra floor most likely will greatly impede our view. In consideration of the residents who live at a lower elevation, I suspect a 5th floor on the lodge is all but guaranteed to drastically distress their view and, as a result, adversely affect all our home values. As I'm certain you are aware, a Catalina Island view greatly bumps up a home's value as it creates a point of interest in an endless horizon. Possibly our views of Dana Point will also be affected. While Mr. Craig's argument is that it is simply a rooftop deck, it will be covered for guest comfort, and that, in essence, creates the same view impediment as an entire floor with a roof. Not to mention the noise of entertainment and voices and additional outdoor lighting, which will make its way across the freeway into our homes at all hours of the night. In order to be reasonable, I wish to request that Mr. Craig be required to install story poles, encompassing at the very least the outline corners of the requested extra floor up to the height where the cover is proposed. Also, each pole should contain flags to help residents better see the top of the pole, as well as a flag at the current permitted roof of the 4th floor. The additional flag at the currently approved 4-story roof level is actually for Mr. Craig's benefit. If residents were able to determine that the extra floor will not impede views more than the current permitted configuration, we're less likely to contest the addition. Also, I wish to request running a notice, possibly in the What's Up With section in the San Clemente Times. The notice should explain when and how long the story poles will be in existence, as well as contact information for residents' opinions and the deadline for submissions. While we understand many unaffected San Clemente residents might roll their eyes at my request, please keep in mind that my husband and I, as well as many residents here, have worked very hard in order to retire in San Clemente and purchase a home with a view. Perhaps Mr. Craig should consider less rooms for the lodge and reconfigure the 4th floor as the rooftop restaurant and bar. Thank you for your consideration. This is a continuation of that comment. I just had an opportunity to review the meeting packets, and I would like my email to be amended to include the following. It appears that the applicant claims that the proposed rooftop addition will merely match the height of the movie theater, which, by the way, none of us had an opportunity on which to voice our opinions. It is yet another unplanned view impediment. I urge the committee to consider the fact that the lodge's pad elevation is quite a bit higher than the movie theater's. Thus, arguing the lodge's height will match that of the movie theater is not a proper comparison. If the applicant wishes to use this argument as precedent, then the hotel elevation pad must add to its height the additional base elevation to that of the movie theaters. Thank you. That was still from Denise. This one is from Kelly Kudla. I recently purchased an Ocean View home in Highland Light Estates, paying overpriced, but the view was worth the money to me. It's been brought to my attention by concerned neighbors that this view could be threatened with changes to the Lodge Hotel project at the outlets. My new home is literally directly in line with the project. I'm writing to ask you to please consider the residents, new and older, who stand the chance to lose not only their views but their property values as well. As you review the developer's proposed revision, I ask that you will implement story poles on all corners of the building with the originally planned elevation as well as the requested new elevation for me and my concerned neighbors to see exactly how much of a view obstruction will take place. I deeply appreciate your attention to hearing our concerns. This one is from Nick and Mary Mastroni. We are extremely concerned regarding the requested new elevation for the hotel. This would be directly in our sightline. We have already lost a considerable amount of view from the outlet stores and the residences. Prior to any approval, we request that site poles be placed on all corners of the building pad for both the originally planned elevation as well as the requested new elevation to determine if the fifth floor will impede our views and lower our property values. Thank you. This one, the email says Rob Johnson, but my name is Rob Johnson. I live in Highland Light, a community that overlooks the proposed Lodge Hotel in San Clemente. This high-end hotel, which I do feel is needed in the city, was approved for at total height of 45 feet. I've been informed that the developer is now attempting to change this height to 62 feet. The reason is to add a view restaurant bar. The problem is the developer's new fifth-story view will now block or diminish the view of 200-plus homeowners behind the proposed hotel. How convenient. The additional height will increase one property owner's value and decrease 200-plus property owner's value. Not fair. This is a game that developers have played forever. In this case, the developer from the beginning really wanted a rooftop bar and a 62-foot height. To achieve this goal, the developer felt his best chance was to get his foot in the door with a 45-foot approval and later ask for 62 feet. This developer thinks the residents of this community and planning commission are stupid. There was a reason it was approved for 45 feet, and it should stay there. This one is from John Leon, writing as a concerned resident of the community of Highland Light Estates and the proposed height increase to the Lodge's hotels previously agreed to plans. I understand and respect the city's desire to balance the competing interests of both business and residents in our community, but in this matter and with this request, the pendulum is being manipulated too far to the side of business and profits. The residents of the surrounding area have already been forced to sacrifice views, use cases, and traffic patterns that many of them never anticipated or imagined prior to the development of the mall. The visual affront we currently suffer by looking at the current warehouse structure is payment enough for the economic benefit both the city and property owner extracted from that land. Approving and allowing the hotel and Chick-fil-A added insult to injury. And now a request for another 17 feet height allowance? No. Too much has already been granted. It's time to provide some balance and consider the greater impact to not only the residents but the long-term effects to San Clemente. As you proceed with the negotiations, my hope is you'll look to future generations and the impact your decision will have on the legacy of San Clemente. Years from now, when people speak of San Clemente, will it be for its sweeping hillsides, beaches, and ocean views, or the monstrosity of the mall and a completely out-of-character structure towering above all others around it called the Lodge? Thanks for reading this far and taking my points into consideration as you proceed with your review. Dear San Clemente Design Review Committee, I am requesting you to deny the submission to add additional floor to the hotel being built at the outlets. This additional floor will impede my property ocean views and lower property value. Haven't you taken enough of our views away already? How is this possible? We are revisiting these developers' change in plans again. Steve Craig has a history of dragging our city through needless lawsuits and wasting our city's already shrinking budget by attempting to bypass agreed-upon building and signage restrictions. This is a repeated tactic the developer uses are unacceptable, and it should not be tolerated. He knew the height limitations when he agreed to the terms before a shovel was ever in the ground. Now he wants to reshuffle the deck. The height restriction was and has been established and needs to be upheld to protect the citizens and homeowners in San Clemente. Additionally, height markers and storyboards should be made available with ample timelines established for all citizens to review at the 4-story mark. Do not allow this developer to fast-track and strong-arm San Clemente and Marblehead community. This hotel as planned will be large and overpowering structure, adding a 5th story with associated umbrellas and flags and neon signs that will continue to increase the sign pollution already emanating from the illuminated signs on an outlet no one visits. Once again, I implore you to deny the request, shut it down, and do not allow this developer to waste your tax dollars in court fighting something that has been previously agreed upon. Joanne Delascio. let's see. I fully support the proposal to improve the 5th floor of the lodge in San Clemente. The rooftop restaurant will be an excellent addition to our community and is unique in our town. As we travel extensively, these types of amenities are often taken into consideration when we travel both domestically or internationally. I encourage your vote in support of this proposal and look forward to enjoying a dinner there and recommending the lodge to my visiting friends and family in the years ahead. Jack Bloodworth. We live in Marblehead area on Avenida Oliva Street. The height increase will really damage our current view that we have now. All of the residents here are strongly opposed to the height increase. If this is approved, we will organize a protest demonstration in the City Hall to voice our concerns. Please disapprove the request from the developer. Respectfully, Robert Curley. We strongly oppose the height increase of the Lodge Hotel. It will block our current view. Please disapprove this request. Tony. I am requesting that you deny the request by Steve Craig, developer of the outlets, to add an additional 5th floor to the plans of the hotel building being built at the outlets. This additional floor will impede my property, ocean views, and lower property value. How is this possible? We are revisiting formally agreed upon height restrictions at this time. This developer, Steve Craig, has a history of dragging our city through needless lawsuits and wasting resources by attempting to bypass agreed upon building and signage restrictions. This one is from someone else, even though it sounds very similar. This is a repeated tactic the developer uses and is unacceptable and should not be tolerated. This developer knew the height limitations when he agreed to the terms before a shovel was ever in the ground. The height restriction was and has been established and needs to be upheld to protect the citizens and homeowners in San Clemente. Additionally, height markers and story poles on all corners of the building pad for the originally planned elevation needs to be made with ample timelines established for all citizens to review the 4-story mark. Do not allow this developer to fast-track and strong-arm San Clemente and Marblehead community. The aggressive way in which this developer has conducted business agreements with the city of San Clemente is disruptive and disrespectful. He does not consider the community or environment at all in plans regarding the outlets. He sold the city and community on a lie that the outlets would be world-class. At best, the outlets are mediocre. He oversold the outlets to the city and did not deliver, and now he wants to further encroach and add a huge hotel that will obstruct ocean views and lower property value. The hotel will be built off of the Vista Hermosa exit. If this hotel is allowed to take even more of our ocean views away, you may as well take the Vista away from the name of the street as it is built on, because there will be no more Vista in Vista Hermosa. This hotel, as planned, will be large and overpowering structure, adding a 5th story with associated umbrellas and flags and neon signs that will continue to increase sign pollution already emanating from the illuminated signs on an outlet no one visits. Once again, I implore you to deny this request, shut it down, and do not allow this developer to waste our tax dollars fighting something that had been previously agreed upon. Thank you, Crystal Stowey. This email is in opposition to any story addition to the proposal hotel plan to be built near the outlet mall. They get their address, which is the 2nd Street above Frontera between Pico and Hermosa. Myself, neighbors, and others, especially those living in Fair Harbor and the Pacific Points apartments, will have their ocean views reduced and in the end affect our home market values. Fair Harbor and the Pacific Points apartments are most affected due to their elevation in comparison to the hotel. My course estimate using online elevation contours indicates that the ground floor residences will be about level with the current planned hotel roof height, assuming hotel max roof elevation is 45 feet. With the proposed hotel story addition, the hotel roof will be about 15 to 17 feet above their ground elevation. This would completely eliminate any ocean view for the entire width of the hotel. Those of us on the lower levels of Marblehead have already been affected with the construction of the outlet malls. My opinion is that the hotel will be an even bigger effect than the outlet mall, and the new homes built between the mall and the ocean. Hotels have windows that will be lit at all times of night, and not only will be an eyesore to the surrounding homeowners, but add additional light pollution. In addition, the hotel will demand lighted signs, and this will only make our light pollution worse at night. At the very least, the hotel sightlines to neighboring residences need to be impacted before any final decisions are made. I realize the city needs additional income to continue, since it only really gets sales tax income, whereas the county takes almost all the property tax monies. However, the Marblehead community has already paid the price. It is time that other parts of San Clemente to be impacted, not Marblehead. Thanks for your time, David Pearson. We are due to request story poles on all corners of the building pad for both the originally planned elevation as well as the requested new elevation. Masha and I cannot pronounce this name, Stambuk. To whom it may concern, I live across the freeway from the outlet center in the Highland Lights Estates. My husband and I moved here in 1999. At that time, we were made aware of the planned outlet center and were enthusiastic to know in future we could look forward to having quality shopping within walking distance. We were assured that San Clemente had strict zoning height limitations, no freeway-oriented signage allowed, etc. Unfortunately, Mr. Stephen Craig, the developer, has not respected this zoning and has constantly pushed for modifications, the latest being an attempt to change his original plans for the lodge at San Clemente to add a 5th floor. I'm concerned that since I live on the first street, Avenida Oliva, it would well impact the ocean view of my neighbors or myself. I'm writing to request story poles on all corners of the building pad for both the originally planned elevation as well as the requested new elevation. This will help to determine if the 5th story will indeed impede our views and lower our property values. Additionally, I'm concerned about having large 5-story buildings. I can't bring my mind to any other 5-story commercial buildings in San Clemente. It seems out of character for our community. Also of concern is potential noise pollution. Will this patio setting offer music? Will the noise carry across the freeway? Thank you for taking these matters under consideration. Lynn Sobel. As a San Clemente homeowner, I've been affected on a daily basis for years by 1, the dirt and noise from outlet mall construction, 2, light pollution from the outlet mall once open, 3, developer request approval to install larger signs, increasing light pollution, 4, and now yet another request to exceed the 45-foot height called out in the original plans. That is a 38% increase in height. If the proposed 62-foot height is approved, it will be the tallest building in this area. It will stand out like a giant middle finger to residents whose view will be scarred forever. Does an extra floor on this hotel add that much to the city coffers? The outlet mall is built and the hotel plan was approved. It seems the city has control and leverage to just say no to this additional unreasonable demand from the developer, Lewis Hines. Hello, I'm writing to strongly urge you to stop any attempt to increase the height of the incoming hotel at the outlets. The additional level will not only block views, increase traffic, compromise our night sky, but likely lower our property values. When we moved to San Clemente in 2009, the outlet property was empty. We knew at some point there would be building, but we had been told that the height would not exceed 2 stories commercial. That may not have been realistic, but to be at 5 stories is just sad. Please keep this in mind as you consider this plan change to our community. San Clemente mission statement, the Spanish city by the sea. There's a quote here, guiding development to ensure responsible growth while preserving and enhancing our village character, unique environment, and natural amenities. The Craig Realty Group construction statement is, quote, our goal is to design and build top quality centers that mesh beautifully with the natural local environment. Signed, a very concerned citizen, Nancy Hines. Let's see, gentlemen, I am a homeowner in Marblehead and strongly oppose the request to add height to the lodge project outlet mall area. The additional 17 feet requested from the original 45 feet proposed is unacceptable to us and fellow property owners. Marblehead carries its strength and reputation as a development which takes strong measures to protect the view and integrity of each property. This increased height request is self-serving and reckless by Stephen Craig without regard to the homeowners which it might affect. The addition of the 5th floor will enable Craig to go beyond the extra 17 feet obstruction by installing awnings, flags, other obstructions which would impede residents' views of the coast, Catalina Island, Dana Point, and will lower our property values. I strongly urge you to vote against the proposed increased height limit. Thank you in advance. Jerry Dom. To whom it may concern, we are original owners of a beautiful ocean view home in Highland Light Estates in Marblehead. Since 1985, we have enjoyed an unobstructed view of the ocean and Catalina Island on a clear day, which in turn has kept our property values high. When we purchased our home with a view, we were told by the developer that a golf course was going to go in the location where Vista Hermosa, Sea Summit, and the outlet stores are now located. This was very appealing. Of course, the rest is history. The outlets serve a purpose, and the nature trails that wind around Sea Summit are very nice. Here's the problem. It is our understanding that Stephen Craig, the developer who is planning on building the lodge, would like to have the city of San Clemente revisit his permit and reconsider allowing an additional 17 feet in overall building height from the approved 45 feet to 62 feet to allow for a rooftop restaurant, which could include flags, fabric awnings, umbrellas, which would add to the total height. Some or all of the homeowners in Marblehead could be greatly impacted if the height of the hotel is increased, bringing down our property values, as well as taking away the view that we cherish. At the very least, we request that story poles be installed to show the existing height of the approved hotel, along with poles that show us what the 62 feet would look like. Please consider the impact to the approximately 200 homes in Marblehead while considering Mr. Craig's most recent request. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Kindest regards, Nani and Bill Fickling. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed addition to the lodge construction plans. We are residents of Marblehead and San Clemente and are deeply concerned that the proposed addition of a fifth floor could impede our views. 4 stories is bad enough, but a fifth floor, especially with rooftop dining, would restrict our views and harm our property values. Please stop this unchecked development, which would be detrimental to so many cities of San Clemente. Thank you, Tom and Lori Harrison. Hello, members of our City Design Review Committee. My name is Mike Sellers, and I live in the 2200 block of Avenida Oliva here in San Clemente. I am writing in concern about the proposed development changes for the hotel concept located at San Clemente Outlet Mall. I would like to go on record as a resident in opposition to these changes. Currently, as I understand it, the developer wishes to add an additional story to the hotel project, plus a restaurant on top of that. Looking out from my home and backyard, this will totally obstruct my view of Catalina Island, my ocean view, and diminish our quality of life, not to mention reduce the property value of our home. Our view of the ocean has already been obstructed and impacted by the development of the San Clemente Outlet Mall and homes. It would seem to me that the developer has been slowly trying to change the terms of the development in accordance with the city's-specific plan. Again, I wish to go on record in opposition to any changes to the plans that have already been approved. Additionally, should any further consideration be given to this, I request that story poles be placed on all 4 corners of the building pad for both originally planned elevation as well as requested new elevation. Kindest regards, Mike Sellers. Dear sirs, we understand that you will be considering a request to add a 5th story to the lodge at the Outlet Mall in San Clemente. As residents of Highland Light Estates in San Clemente since 1999, we are very opposed to allowing exceptions to the citywide limit of 4-story buildings. When the proposal for the hotel was first proposed, we were assured that they would not be allowed to get a variance from this requirement. It is our opinion that a rooftop bar restaurant will also increase the noise to unacceptable levels unless it is totally enclosed and the windows are kept closed at all times. If you are considering this considerable deviation from the approved plans, we strongly urge you to require story poles for both the original and the requested heights on all the corners of the site with flags for the length so we are able to fully understand exactly what the view encroachment will be at completion. Thank you, Linda and Robert Baker. We're nearing the end. Dear members of our City Design Review Committee, my name is Rita Fraser, and I live and own a home in Highland Light Estates above the future hotel, which is now wanting to build up to a 5th story. Such a height is outside the San Clemente specific plan. It would eliminate the views of many homes in our neighborhood, costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost property values, not to mention the quality of life. The ocean view is why we bought our home. I oppose any plans for a height adjustment or increase of any type. Our views have been impacted enough already. This developer has been accommodated enough already. While I understand they have the right to develop their property, they do not have the right to change the specific plan of the city to the detriment of the residents. Please do what's right for your constituents and our life investments. Thank you, Rita Fraser. Dear Council, keep Mr. Craig with the original plans that got approved for the outlets many years ago. I went to many meetings back then, and he is lucky to have those plans approved. Now he is asking for more. Come on, people. This is his tactical plan, just like the higher foot signage. Vote him down. Sincerely, thanks in advance, Dennis and Becky Caressio. Just a note of practicality. Walk through most of the stores at the mall and look up. What you will see is space, 8 to 10 feet of wasted airspace. My blue view was decreased by about 50 to 20% when the mall and the homes from Highland Light, 5% of that was for air and mall aesthetic. Decreasing citizens' aesthetic even more is not needed. If you want to come by and take a look from my home, please contact me. The example before and after photographs, he's probably referring to attachment 3 in the packet, do not show the actual decrease in blue view. Story poles would be nice. Then you can come up and take a look. I do not frequent the mall, but it seems empty most of the year unless there's an event or it's Christmas. Does the city really need increased revenue from another restaurant or banquet venue? Thanks, Robert Angers. When my wife and I purchased our home in Marblehead in 2018, as we were looking for a quiet ocean view neighborhood, and Marblehead offered exactly what we were looking for. We spent months looking at homes with ocean views and carefully considered each home and the view. We took into consideration the eventually of the hotel and the loss of the view based on the improved structure. We are very happy with our home and view and are very busy upgrading it to make it our dream home. I now understand the hotel wants more height to the already approved plans to build a bar. I cannot even comprehend that the city is considering this. The Marblehead community has made peace with the hotel going in, and many of us have invested the extra $100,000 to $200,000 for an ocean view that the hotel now wants to block with a bar. Our particular ocean view will be blocked with this unplanned expansion, and no one in Marblehead wants to look out at a rooftop full of umbrellas, lighting, and plants. I also think the noise of up to 200 people drinking every night is not fair to subject our quiet neighborhood to. Please make the right decision and just say no to a bar that harms our neighborhood and the ability to see the ocean. Best regards, Gary Hess. I am writing to express my concern over the proposed height increase, inclusion of a restaurant and bar to the lodge at the outlets. My husband and I worked for years to be able to purchase an ocean view home in the beautiful neighborhood of Marblehead and San Clemente. Our dreams were realized a couple of years ago when we purchased our ocean view home. The real estate disclosures which we received included a proposed project of 42 feet, no bar, no restaurant. The proposed height increase will block my view, which is worth tens of thousands of dollars in home value. Is the lodge going to pay me for the decrease in my home's value? The noise and traffic generated from a bar will also be detrimental to the peace and quiet of our neighborhood. Had I wished to be living by the bar scene, I would have moved closer to downtown San Clemente off Del Mar. The city should not approve this change. Residents agreed to one set of criteria for the hotel. They did not agree to this height increase, along with the subsequent noise and disruption from a bar and restaurant. Please do not approve this item. Best regards, Teresa Hess. That's all of the public comments that were received prior to the meeting.
Thank you very much for the speed reading lesson. Also, Katie, you have sent us all the emails that you received prior to this meeting being scheduled. And
yes,
from the public.
Yes, most of those comments came to me by email shortly after the project was submitted. So I did provide those to you, and they're available as a part of the public record.
Very good. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and close public comment. Open to discussion now. And I would like to try to keep us doing just what we're tasked to do at the Design Review Subcommittee, and that's really look at the architectural character of it and not get into things that are a land use issue or so forth. So I'll get us started. I want to say there's a lot of information. This is a very incomplete application at this point. Additional information has to be provided about topography, view lines, etc. Environmental impact report has to be generated. So there's a lot of information that's got to be generated before this can go in front of Planning Commission and then City Council for their review. Things that haven't been talked about is this is also a gateway to the city. And I want to make sure that the applicant understands that the Spanish Colonial Revival architecture guidelines are extremely significant to these gateway zones. As we come in on Vista Hermosa's off-ramp heading south, you will see this building basically over the Chick-fil-A, and I'm afraid the one thing you're going to see is this fifth story element. So just a cursory box with a roof on it. I don't believe meets the standards of or the intent of the architectural guidelines, as well as coming from the south driving north. The entire facade of this building, the widest elevation, is visible from the freeway for quite some time. About the time you reach the outlets, you can see the side of the building. So the south elevation is as critical. And I think there's some balance issues as far as the design goes, detailed items that need to be addressed that Katie has pretty much outlined in her staff report. The recommendation probably would be, if there's any way you can do this in the height limit, I think it would be beneficial to you. If you want to pursue the direction you're going, you're welcome to give it a try. But I want to make sure that you realize there's a lot of fine-tuning of the architecture that will be required. And it's a little hard to get into detail now on the building since we don't know what the restrictions of any height changes will be. I fully hope. I didn't like what I read in the subject on this. It says a request to increase the allowable height for the zone. I'm not comfortable with changing the height for the whole zone, and I would suggest that anything that is drafted for height limits limits the amount of building that can exceed the height limit. We need to make sure that the massing is appropriate for our guidelines and that anything that exceeds the height limit is minimal as possible. We've referred to the height of the movie theater. Standing over by the church across the freeway looking at the outlet mall, the only part that you see above the conventional height limit is a turret and an architectural feature kind of identifying a landmark. It's not a massive part of an additional story that is visible, and that is what is being proposed here. So I think the characterization that this is somehow equivalent to the movie theater is somewhat misleading. But I'll continue with comments after we hear from Commissioner Kaczynski and Commissioner Wu. Which one of you two would like to chime in? Commissioner Kaczynski.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think this project is ready for Planning Commission, and it does seem like there's some concerns staff has as far as breaking up that center area and the standalone bar area, in addition to all the height concerns. But as far as from a design perspective, I think it needs a little bit of work before the Planning Commission is ready to see it. But everything you said is spot on.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes, let me start by saying I think a rooftop bar and a restaurant is a great idea. It gives people a very unique experience of that destination. I remember one time I went to Palm Springs. I've been to a lot of restaurants at the top of high-rise, but the Palm Springs has a hotel at Kempton, and then they have a rooftop bar, swimming pool, and a restaurant. And sitting there overlooking the city at night, it's surreal. So that's a very good idea to have that feature. As far as this particular design, the other two members said, I also need a lot more information to assess it. First, I need the grading plan of the site plan. I understand that there's no change to the site plan, but I need to see the grade to assess the overall impact of the massing and compare that grading to other portions of the city and development. I'd like to see a roof plan, the complete roof plan, including the fifth level, original section, so that I can compare the original section and the new section. As far as the view analysis, on page 2 of view analysis, the viewpoint is from across the street looking toward this hotel. I'd say this view is a ultra wide angle from a GoPro. Doesn't reflect a real experience of a human eyes. So I need those, and hotel is so small, I really cannot decipher much. So I need those images to have the field of view angle as of its 50mm length, which is similar to human eyes for all of those. I need a few additional shots from the off-ramp of the Vista Hermosa from Interstate 5 southbound, as well as a viewpoint from the freeway on both directions. Because a few shots, for example, the apartments on the other side of the Interstate 5, including the Fair Harbor and the one at the corner of Interstate 5 and Vista Hermosa, as well as the off-ramp at Vista Hermosa and the Jim Johnson Memorial Park. Those elevations, when you look from those spots, the building height is very sensitive to the elevation. And I know that graphic artists are not known for very good accuracy. As we learned from other projects, when the building, from a certain viewpoint, if the building height is about to encroach into the horizon, every couple of feet matters. So I need a little more accuracy. The best way is to have some store codes. I understand this is a tall building, so I think we have to figure out a way how to do it. It's doable. Computer simulation. I just need some guarantee of the accuracy of those computer renderings. The model needs to be verified by a civil engineer in terms of the elevation, height, etc. Otherwise, preferably, I'd like to see a story code, because this will tell everybody for sure how the building will look like in the future, once in the future. And it's going to help to alleviate a lot of the concern from the neighborhood and the community, because everybody can see it as if it's real. As we all know, the computer rendering
Jen, we lost you. You want to
has some tolerance, and which maybe too much. But then a minor comment about the landscaping on the rooftop. Currently, we have the drawing shows the top of a parapet, but really there's a glass panel over the solid portion of the parapet. Then there's a furniture like umbrella, lighting, heater. The proposed tiny tower, cycles, they have a mature size of 20 to 25 feet. When they grow up, they can be taller than the top of the elevator tower. So I'd like the landscape architect to look at those species again to make sure that those cypress can only go, now they don't need to go that tall, right? When you walk down the aisle with the cypress on both sides, I guess half of that height would be enough. 10 to 12 feet or 15 feet would be enough. So I'd like them to consider different species to limit the heights of those potted plants once they get matured. I certainly don't want them to be trimmed and topped. My biggest concern of this project is the balance of building massing. Originally, the dome is the prominent tower of the hotel project. Once we added the back of house and the new elevator tower, they are at the same height as the proposed and higher dome structure. That distracts people's attention from that prominent landmark and make the building look more. The building massing now is dominated by the center portion instead of the high portion because the new elevator tower is bigger and at the same height of the dome. So the balance of that building massing is lost. Similarly, we have the high point from the tower over the theater, which governs everything, including the shopping mall as well as the hotel. With this new proposed building massing on the center of the hotel, again, the overall balance is lost. There are two ways to look at it. We can continue to raise the height of tower over the dome and substantially raise the tower over the theater to regain that balance. But that's one way to go. But I suggest that the applicant look at the possibility, the safer approach, which is, Prado just suggested, carve out half of the fourth floor to accommodate the back of house, have some indoor seating, and then outdoor seating. And so you have a complete restaurant on the fourth floor facing ocean. You have as good ocean view from there. Then extend the building footprint. Well, the site is so tight, you cannot extend it, but you can extend the upper portion over the conference to get back the lost guest room if you want it. I think that's a much better way. It doesn't ask for a general plan amendment, specific amendment. It doesn't ask you to go back to the city council to renegotiate a design agreement. Because we mentioned design agreement, I'd like to just mention or warn the applicant that your signage on the hotel was guaranteed based on the previous design agreement. If we're going to raise the building height, you have to check with your attorney on that. And you may not be guaranteed that the same signage, because based on today's city ordinance, the freeway-oriented signage are prohibited. Something you have to look into with your attorney on that. That's pretty much my comments. As I said, the biggest concern is I understand that articulation of building massing can be worked on, but the biggest concern is the loss of a building massing balance within the hotel itself, as well as in relationship to the shopping mall overall. This building is going to be the tallest building in the city. We have a few 5-story buildings, not a lot, but a few of them. They're in pier bow, sitting in a terrain relatively low, and so they don't have much visual impact to the community. or the visual impact is limited. And this building is sitting on a flat land. Well, it was a small node, now it's a flat land. And it's going to be seen by everybody and be seen from the freeway. So it is, and it's located at a gateway. So to qualify, the current design does not yet have the quality we expect from a building, a landmark building at the city gateway. So that's my comment. I look forward to seeing it again and to review it.
Thank you, Jen. We don't typically open it up to applicants, but I want to ask Katie, do you have enough information, and I want to concur with the applicants, whether they have a understanding of what our comments are and mean, and what the next step is. Also, is the model available for public viewing at this time?
It's not here. I mean, I'm sitting in the room with it. It's going to be picked up again, I believe, by the applicant tomorrow. I imagine it will be at the Craig Realty offices. I don't know if that would be at their main office or if it's actually on display somewhere at the outlets. I can find out if that would be a possibility, but at this point, no.
Yeah, I would like to see the applicants, or excuse me, the public, to have the opportunity to see everything we've had the opportunity to see, to base our comments on.
Okay.
Okay, either Tom or Kevin, either of you have comments?
I'm good. I think, yeah, I'm good for now.
Okay, I don't know what the next step. Will this automatically go whether we have concurrence that it's ready for Planning Commission? Would it come back here first, or will it go straight to Planning Commission? We kind of have a no decision here.
So I think overall, to me, the comments from the commissioners all seem very in line with each other. I have a clear direction on what the Design Review Subcommittee is looking for. My recommendation would be that it does come back to the Design Review Subcommittee. We'll have the opportunity to do that without slowing down the process, because we will have an environmental document that will have a required public comment period. And so any design changes can definitely be brought back to the DRSC without, an impact on the timeline of the project.
I appreciate that very much. I hope very much we can do it face-to-face rather than through video when that occurs, so the public can get involved also. So let's do just raise your hand if you agree to have it come back to Design Review Commissioners. We have both commissioners agree that, and I do also, so that's 3-0 on it coming back to Design Review. And we are here to work with applicants, and certainly would welcome the at least the studies if there's any way you can do this within the existing ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Katie. Wonderful job. It was, I know you've been swamped, but you did very well, and we're well served by our planning staff. Thank you. The next item is new business, which I'm not aware of any. Does anyone have some new business? Old business? Oral communications and written communications on items not on our agenda. I'm not aware of any. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn the regular meeting of the Design Review Subcommittee to be held Wednesday, June 10th at 4 p.m. in San Clemente Council Chambers, located at 100 Avenida Presidio, San Clemente, California, or on Zoom.
Very good. Do we have a second? Second by Jianwu. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes 3-0. Thank you very much. And for those that watched, we appreciate your interest.